All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, all across the globe, welcome to another edition, another broadcast, another global network of the PaProV Publishing, ladies and gentlemen. We present today's, ladies and gentlemen, conversation at the table. Guess who's running this whole thing today, ladies and gentlemen? The awesome, the beautiful, the talented, and the CEO and founder of PaProV Publishing, ladies and gentlemen, LaQuita Parks, ladies and gentlemen. We can't wait for her to take over here in a second, but we want everybody to share this out as you're seeing it live. We want to welcome you, welcome you, welcome you. We also want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving from the network as well today, but we do want you to share this out as it comes live on your platforms or on the platform that you're reviewing as well. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the CEO and founder of PaProV Publishing, Miss LaQuita Parks, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kevin. So today we are here again doing another episode of So What's Your Story? So What's Your Story is a monthly series on how to write your story. And today I have a special guest with me. I have several special guests with me. I'm so excited. But we are going to be talking to none other than Miss Iris McDuffie, who is a registered licensed dietitian. But we're going to get to her first. We're going to get to her in a minute, but we're going to talk about how to write your story. So what's your story? And before I forget, Kevin already said it. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. I know that everybody out there in the world can use a little bit of grace, can use a little bit of Thanksgiving. So enjoy yourself, stay safe, stay safe. If you're going to gather with your family, put your mask on, do those things that's necessary for you to stay safe, but have fun, enjoy your families, enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. So we're going to jump right in because I'm so excited to share with everybody. I think, am I sharing the screen? Did I share the screen right? I did not do it right. Here we go. Here we go. So today we are talking, what's your story? So it's a monthly series on how to write your story. And today we're going to talk about conversations at the table. So I would be remiss if I did not thank my sponsors. First of all, thank you so much, Kevin Vaughn with the MLT Network, Legal Shield, Johnny Brown, Alpha Aviations with Kevin King. Life happens. And how many of you guys know that if we learned nothing else during this pandemic, life happens. David Mazzell, Fit for a Purpose. If you guys want to get fit, if you're in the Atlanta area, they have Chair One. And guess what? I did that chair exercise and I thought it was going to kill me. It was wonderful. I felt it for like 3 days. I couldn't hardly walk. My legs were so sore and I never stood up out of my chair. And then King Kurt with Cuts by King Barber, and LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group. Thank you very much to our sponsors. They help us get this done so that we can keep our costs competitive and we can help everybody take their stories from a thought to a realization. So today we are going to talk about, we're going to just start. How do you write your story? We're just going to start. And then we're going to do some conversations at the table. And we're going to have a conversation and talk to Miss Iris. And she's going to give us some tips on how to stay food safe during these holidays. If you guys are like me, you guys know that when the holidays, that's when it seems like all the good food comes out. You know, people go out of their way and make all these things that you don't make. You know, my family doesn't make dressing every day. You know, this is like special occasion stuff. So you get the good food. And then we have Christmas holidays coming right behind Thanksgiving. So this is the eat good, gain weight, get sick period of the year, right? Right, Miss Iris. So Iris is going to give us some tips on how to stay food safe, okay? And here is Miss Iris, and she's going to introduce herself. She can introduce herself way better than I can. So we're going to get to her in just a moment. But before we dive into that, we're going to talk about, so what's your story? We meet every month at the same location, and we talk about writing your story. What's your story? So when you write your story, get ready for a world of readers. There's somebody waiting for you to tell your story. So for those of you who have not joined us before, and this is your first time, let me give you a little bit of information about me. So my name is LaQuita Parks, and I am the owner of PaProViPublishing. And PaProV means pain, progress, victory, because without pain, there is no progress, and without progress, there can be no victory. So I help people take their stories from a thought to a realization, because we know that 100% of everybody living and dead has a story. 100%, everybody has a story. The graveyard is full of people with stories. The world is full of people walking around with stories. But guess what? Out of the 7 billion people that are on the planet, 1% of adults, no, 80% of adults want to write their story, but only 1% will. So when you write your story, you will be among the 1%. And that's an exclusive group of writers. So there's somebody always waiting on the other side of their story, so that they can, of your story, so they can heal from their story. So healing is therapeutic. So how do you start? I meet with people all the time that they have a story, but they just don't know how to get started. So we just broke down a simple process of getting started. So number one, you're going to set goals. You're going to set goals and set realistic goals. A realistic goal for me would be, okay, I can get up 10 minutes early and go to bed 10 minutes late and write. I can't write for 2 hours a day. My schedule doesn't allow that. So that would not be a realistic goal for me, but it might be for you. So set realistic goals, then think positively. How many of you know that what you think is what you become? How many of you know that? So if you think negative, guess what's going to happen? Nothing but negative things are going to happen. But if you think positively, then positive actions will come. So, and then acknowledge your why. Why am I writing this story? So my question would be, why should I care about your story? So if you can answer that question, then you're ready. Why write your story? Is it to inform? Is it to tell somebody about your story? Is it to entertain? You know, there are a lot of funny autobiographies, and your story doesn't have to be a woe is me type of story. It doesn't have to be a story where somebody did you some harm. It could be a story where you're teaching somebody how to do something through your life. Iris is going to talk about a little bit of that today. So acknowledge your why, and then retrain your brain. Retrain your brain. So I've known Iris for a long time, and she's tried real hard to help me retrain my brain. It's not an easy task. Robert Brooks is joining us today, and he has tried to teach me how to retrain my brain, but that ain't so easy. Even Miss Mary has tried to teach me how to retrain my brain. So guess what? Retrain your brain, how you see things, and then take baby steps. Take baby steps. Okay, that's how you just start. So you want to start strong and you want to finish strong. How many of you are like me? If you pick up a book and you start to read the book and the book is kind of boring, what do? Me, I go to the end to see how it's going to end. If the end isn't interesting, then I don't go any further with the book. So start strong. Start with a great introduction, and then finish strong, conclude it strong. And then the middle of it will take care of itself, because you can't write a boring book when you started off really strong. So sometimes though, you start here and then you crash and burn, but you want to start strong and you want to finish strong. And don't rush the process. There are people who can write a book in a day, depending on what your goals are. But don't rush the process. Now, when you set your goals, you want to know what your realization is. You don't want to say, okay, I want to start writing a book and I'm going to be finished in 5 years. Well, guess what? That 5 years is going to turn to 10 years, because what happens when you first start writing your story, or when you're in the midst of writing your story and you can't, life happens, right? So when life happens, what's the first thing to go off the calendar, off the schedule? It's going to be that book. It's going to go to the back burner because it's not as important. Well, your story is important. It's a sense of accomplishment for you. And remember, it's not about you. Our stories are not about us. Our stories are about the people who are waiting for the healing, or waiting for that process so they can get to the end of their story. That's what our story is about. So don't rush the process. And then keep it simple. Keep it simple. Somebody said, keep it simple. Kiss it means keep it simple. Saints. I've heard some other stuff. Keep it simple, silly. You know, I've heard keep it simple, stupid. Now I'm not gonna call nobody stupid, you know, but whatever you say it is, keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Don't overthink it. A lot of times we overthink it, and before you know it, we start writing a book, and then 10 years later, we still writing that same book, and nothing in the book has changed. So keep it simple. Don't overthink it. And so where do you begin? Where do you begin? So when we're talking about conversations at the table, and how many of you know that that's where a lot of it begins? It begins at the table. Now, it can be at the dinner table when you're with your family. It could be at the table with your girlfriend. It can be at the restaurant. Where it begins with a conversation, even if it's a conversation with yourself. So where do you begin? So here are some tips that have helped me to begin my writing process. So keep a journal. Keep a journal, write it down. If you don't want to keep a journal, take notes, however you want to do it, but write it down so that you can remember, because, you know, when we start to get a little older, we start to forget some things. I don't know about you guys, but I know that I do. Sometimes I've been talking on my phone before and was looking for my phone at the same time. So keep a journal, keep a journal, write it down, and then be real. Don't fake it. Don't fake it. It's your story. So when you start having the conversation with yourself and you start to write your story, be real. Be real. Don't fake it. Okay. And then note the change. When did the change happen? So what was the pivotal moment in your story? What was the defining moment? What was the heartbreak? What was the abundance of joy? What was the sadness? Remember when the change happened, and then write from there. So sometimes when we start writing our stories, some people get caught up because you feel like you got to write every little piece of the detail. You know, I want to write about my life, so you got to go back to when I was born. I was born on October 10th, and it was a cold, windy day. And then my mama came to the hospital, and she gave me Similac. And then my daddy came, and my daddy wanted to give me Enfamil. Well, you don't have to start there. Start at the defining moment, and then go from there. Okay. And remember, you don't have to put everything in one book. You can always do a sequel. There's always a series. Okay. And then remember the smell. Remember what was your surroundings when you started to write your story, when this thing started to happen that you want to write about. What was going on? Was it a cold winter day? Was it, was there bread cooking? Was mama, did mama burn the toast? Were you driving and you were in the store and you smell the sweet fragrance, their perfume? So remember your senses. What was the smell? What was the taste? Were you eating something? I remember when some years ago I went to this restaurant, and I remember that they had when I was still eating pork, they had a pork chop, and it was called, it was a carbonara. And I still remember the taste of that pork chop. And that had to be 15, 20 years ago. And I've never been back to that restaurant, but I still remember the taste. I've not tasted anything like that before. Now I've tasted some really good stuff, but I remembered that was the first time I had that. So remember, I can tell you where I was, what I was doing. It was a birthday party. This lady turned 50 years old. And I also remember the check, because that was the first time I had to be a part of splitting a group check when I didn't even eat that much, and I ended up having to pay, that's a whole nother story, but that's a part of my story. But the point is, remember where you were, the smell, the taste, the touch, remember that. And then what's it all about? What's it about? Bring it together. What's it all about? What's the theme of your story? You know, what's the subject? What are you talking about? And then last but not least, and there are so many different ways, but this is my way, tell the story. If you're going to tell your story, tell your story. If you're going to go through the anxiety and the stress of getting prepared to write your story, tell the story. Yes, there are going to be people who are going to oppose your story. There are going to be people who, even if you're writing a children's book, there are going to be people who say, well, why are you writing about that? Or you should do this, or you should do that, or if I were you. Be very careful of those if I were you people. Most of the time when they're saying if I were you, they're telling you to do something that they haven't even considered doing and that they won't do, but they don't want you to do it. Okay. So tell your story. Okay. So now this is the fun part. Now we're going to introduce our special guest. We're going to introduce Miss Iris McDuffie. Miss Iris, I would like for you to introduce yourself. And then, you know, when you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, tell us what you do. And just for fun, tell us how do you know me, Miss LaQuita Parks?
Greetings, and thank you, my friend LaQuita, for allowing me to be your guest speaker today. I'm Iris McDuffie, better known as Diva RDN, and I met LaQuita back in 2013, 14. I was seeking opportunities to share my passion, and contacted Kroger, and that's how we met. And at the time, LaQuita was involved with the health and wellness, so she invited me to be a part of their program, which I provided, I guess you could say, conversations with the dietitian or sessions with Kroger corporate office. And we did basic conversations about nutrition and foods and what we should eat, what's good, what's bad, what's better, how to adhere to serving sizes and things of that sort. As a result of that, our friendship blossomed, and I became a part of a failure to communicate, which she is very, 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 very instrumental in identifying those young minds that needed some focusing and some nurturing. And when I tell you she did just that, she did. She exposed them to a number of things, life things that would afford them to be proactive, things that would allow them to take ownership of their life. We talked about health and wellness. We talked about behavior. We just did those things that will make for a model individual. And I know for sure that those individuals whose lives she touched will be forever changed and have made remarkable strides in life and still are. Again, I'm a registered dietitian. My background is biology, and always loved the health sciences, and had a desire to become a dietitian after finding out about it after doing a master's in clinical nutrition. And I knew that I wanted to do the clinical part where I would be able to work in a hospital and share with individuals who've been diagnosed with a disease state, be it chronic or what have you, those insights in terms of how they could better improve their nutrition and for the most part, just take management of their disease state. That blossomed itself. And when I would have issues or concerns about how to say something, I could always pick up the phone and call LaQuita and said, hey, I want you to listen to this, or what you think about that. So we bounced off ideas with each other. And Kroger had a corporate health fair. And again, because of our friendship, she invited me to participate, and it just blossomed. I'm very fortunate to have had a relationship and a friendship with LaQuita, because she's just a down-to-earth person. She has goals and aspirations very similar to mine, but she's good people. So I'm excited about being a part of her world, and she's truly a part of mine. And we developed that relationship while I was living in Atlanta, and then I moved back home to South Carolina to be with my mom, to take care of my mom, and kind of created a distance because life brings on many changes, but we've maintained our relationship. And every time there's an opportunity, she always refers to me as her dietitian, and I will forever be grateful. So I'm here today to share with you. I'm here today to share with you some nutrition tips, about some do's and maybe some don'ts, but we're going to focus about the conversation around the table, and particularly about Thanksgiving and the meal.
Yes. So, Iris, thank you so much for that. And I know that I have not been a good patient. I have not been a great patient, because just like I said, things happen and we have to change our way of thinking. And Iris, I've never met somebody who was as passionate about her field of expertise as Iris. And Iris, for me, made the diet, when people look at you and you're a large person, or if you're either too large, or you're too thin, you're too this, you're too that. And that was one of the things that Iris and I connected on, because with the mentoring program, I was determined to help young ladies see that it did not matter what the outside of you looked like, but it was the inside. But also knowing that the inside, when the inside comes out, if it's ugly, what you're going to see is going to be ugly. So we worked on healing and helping them from the inside out. And we recognized that a part of that was the nutrition. So I love the way that Iris broke it down and made it so that it was fun. It was fun. And so we're going to talk about those. So for those of you who are just joining and you are tuning in to So What's Your Story, we are meeting today and we are talking about conversations at the table. And how do you write your story? And stories start with conversations at the table. And so Iris has her own story. Iris is working on a book that, prayerfully will get published here soon. And it's her story. It's her story about her journey and her desires for people who look like her, young ladies who look like us. And how do we help them maneuver? And that's a part of their story. So Iris, before you get started, I want to recognize Miss Mary Beal and Mr. Robert Brooks. Do you guys have anything you want to say before we dive into our conversations at the table with Ms. McDuffie? You're muted, Miss Mary.
Thank you, LaQuita, for inviting me, and I'm glad to meet Ms. McDuffie. She's someone that I need to know.
Nice to meet you.
As a resource person, it is always good to meet a nutritionist, a dietitian, just for knowledge purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can share anything about writing a book, then you can reach out to me. I'm still learning, but I'm enjoying it.
Oh, wonderful.
Miss Mary is amazing. Amazing. Miss Mary, you want to take a minute and tell us about yourself? What kind of book you got now?
Well, I've been blessed, and I say blessed. It's a gift from the Holy Spirit to interact with people who are 100 years and older. And so that's where I have focused in the past. My mother, who lived to be 101 in 7 months. And I had so many in my family who were centenarians. And then now I'm with Mother Shazer, who's the subject of my last book, which is How to Live Well Past 100 Years. And she's 108, almost 109. Just a pleasure to be with.
Yes.
So, and I was just talking with the city chairman of the city commission and saying that one of the things about being around the elders is that not only do you gain from the wisdom they have, but you just thankful to God that he's given you the opportunity to live and interact with a person whose mind is as sharp as Mother Shazer's mind at 108. I mean, everybody who and you can see I love her so, because anytime I mention her name or see her, there's this big smile that comes on my face.
Mine too.
That's it. As a matter of fact, I need to get you that address, because if you don't at least call her, she was going to be upset because she's called.
Yes, I want to get by there to visit her while she's here. That's one of my favorite people breathing. Thank you so much, Miss Mary.
You're most welcome.
Mr. Brooks?
I just want to say hello to Iris. I haven't seen you in quite a while.
It has been a while. How are you, my friend?
I'm super fantastic. If I was any better, I'd be in heaven. The other thing is that you are in what I may call a biblical profession. And the reason I say that, the Bible is replete from thank y'all, from Genesis to Revelation about eating. As a matter of fact, humanity started with eating. This tree you can eat from, but don't eat from that tree. And when you are eating, it is more than just a meal. There's a lot of things that's going on. You are sharing relationship. And when you put food in your mouth, that's the most intimate part of what you can do with your mouth. And that is to put food in there. It excites every one of those 10,000 taste buds that's on your tongue. And so it's an intimate act, and it is a fellowshipping act. And it is an act of faith because you believe that what you're going to eat is going to do you well.
Agreed.
I love it. I love it. So, Miss Iris, let's start this. Let's start the conversation. So, so Thanksgiving's coming. It's tomorrow.
Yes, it's here. Yeah,
it's here. It's here. I mean, I had to go to Kroger, and I wasn't too happy about it because I said I do not want to go into Kroger today. And I was in there, and I ran into the lady that walked around. We saw each other on every aisle. Now I was only looking for some almond milk. That's all I was looking for. She was mad because she couldn't find pie crust. She said, now I got to make my own pie crust. And then somebody else came up and they were looking for pie crust. And then I saw some people tugging over some turkeys. There was plenty of turkeys, but they were kind of tugging over. And I think they were family. See, this is big enough or this is too big. But so it's here. It's here. The parking lot says it's here. The pandemic ain't did nothing about Thanksgiving because people are out shopping and they want to spend time with their family. So how does one maneuver with the plate?
Good question. So thank you for that question. And if you're interested on what you should or shouldn't do for Thanksgiving, this conversation is just for you. So I have a few tips I'd like to share with you. And I started off with about 5, but it may be more than that. So the first one is, I want you to be true to yourself. And as Robert Brooks says, there's a whole lot that goes on when we put food into our mouth. The food that goes into our mouth is definitely going to be a nutrient or nutrition for our bodies. But the Bible says that the body is our temple and we should treat it as such. So we should be careful and very selective about the foods that we consume. So the first thing I want you to consider for today and for tomorrow, moving forward into the future, is always eat breakfast. Regardless of what the occasion is, always eat breakfast. That's a good way to start your day. The research says that a good breakfast stimulates cognition. It's definitely true for those young minds who may be going to school and ready to take tests, but I think it's true for everybody. Everybody needs a boost of something to get them going for the day. So eat breakfast. If your goal in life for tomorrow is to satisfy the flavors of your palate, I say do so. Do it. Enjoy it. But do it in moderation and make sure that you're eating small amounts. So first and foremost, as I say, eat breakfast so that you've not starved yourself. And by the time that you get to the table for the dinner that's supposed to be at 12 o'clock, that actually ends up being around 2, and you're ready to bite your fingernails. So if you eat breakfast, it will stave you from actually going into overdrive and possibly overeating, and your eyes are longer than your stomach. So make sure you eat breakfast. You don't have to eat a big breakfast, but you want to eat something that's going to take you over to that meal. And in reality, when we look at holiday celebrations or foods that we're not normally going to eat, we don't need to have the mindset of I'm going to stop this so that I can consume that. You want to follow that regimen that you have on a regular basis. So routine is very important because the body knows what's going in, but it also has to decide how it's going to metabolize it. So if you put it in a starvation mode, then of course you're going to look at how it's going to try to figure out what it is that you're trying to do. So you want to make sure that you're consistent. Number 2, prepare that plate when you get ready to have dinner tomorrow. Prepare that plate with all of the pleasures of your palate. Everything is going to look good. So instead of saying, I'm not going to eat this and I'm not going to eat that, get a small portion of everything, just enough to taste it, so that you can actually say that you've actually enjoyed the meal. Remember, Thanksgiving is about thanks and forgiving, and it's also an opportunity for us to share and to catch up. And in this space that we're in today, following the pandemic, we're in a place this year that we weren't in last year. So we're actually excited about seeing those family and friends, or some of those relatives that we don't really want to see on a regular basis. So having said that, you really want to make sure that you enjoy this moment. One of the things that we like to do on a regular basis is to make sure that we have those roundtable discussions, and it's a catch up of what had happened, what's going to happen, what should happen. And in this case, we got a lot of catching up to do because a year has gone by and we've not had a chance to have those Thanksgiving meals. So be proactive and make sure that you get a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and make sure that you enjoy the meal. Number 3.
I'm sorry, and have some conversations at the table while you're doing
have some conversations at the table. And I'd also like to say too, if those conversations get a little sticky, then put a plug in it and also pull something positive out of the air and make sure that you're able to change that conversation. So number 3, after you had that first round, so let's say that meal is between 12 and 2. You've had that first round, and it's routine that we go back and get that second or third round. I say, if the weather is permissible, go outside and maybe take a walk, because this is a good time to do that one-on-one conversation about Mary, who you heard was getting married, or Uncle Johnny, who you heard was having a divorce, or Susan, who may be having a baby, or whatever the situation may be. But this is an opportunity to have that girlfriend walk, or that boyfriend walk, or that family walk, and kind of catch up. But if the weather is not permissible, then gather all of the folks in the house, the chillins, the young adults, the old adults, and let's say we can have a competition of a Soul Train line. Everybody likes to dance. It would be an opportunity for us to get moving. And all we want to do is get into some moving and to get that heart rate going and to start that metabolism of that good plate we just had. So make sure you include that. Make sure you do that. And I mean, get everybody involved, even those who took the time to prepare that delicious meal. Invite them to be a part of that process as well. Not only will it help the digestion process and help with metabolism, but it will create camaraderie. It stimulates relationships, and it also extends that whole process of Thanksgiving. Number 4, there are going to be lots of libations. There are going to be lots of beverages, and some of us have our special beverages that we have for Thanksgiving. I would say where there is soda, I would limit it. If you can, have some sparkling water or just water. If there is alcoholic beverages, know before you arrive at the scene what that composition or that content or the amount that you're going to consume is going to be. I recommend 6 ounces or less one time. So pick and choose when you're going to have that. If celebration with the libations occurs with the meal, that's your one time. If celebration with the libations occur after you've had that second or third meal, or as the evening progresses into the night, one time, 6 ounces. So please be included in keeping that in mind. Your beverages add calories, and calories are what's going to have you looking some kind of way later on when you look at the first of the year. Interestingly enough, I saw a patient on yesterday, and he told me that he drinks 2 liters of Dr. Thunder diet from Walmart. Well, I didn't know what Dr. Thunder is because I'm not a big Walmart shopper, but he told me it's the equivalent of Dr. Pepper, Walmart's brand. He said 2 liters is what he consumes on a regular basis, if not more. And I thought to myself, sir, how many times do you consume 2 liters of water during the course of the day? Oh, he says, well, I may get into water every once in a while. So if those are some of your habits, cut back on them, because the research says that if we're consuming a soda, which is 12 ounces, one time a day, that we increase the incidence of us developing diabetes. So 25%. So if that's the story, then I want you to retell that story and make sure that that is not your story, such that you will improve your health and wellness. And lastly, when we get to a point where we're ready to have those what do they call those conversations that may not be good conversations? You haven't seen them in a while, and you know they're going to ask you, like I have relatives that often ask, well, Iris, when are you getting married? Or have you got married yet? When you get to those conversations, think positive and don't get caught up into having the last word, but move into a mood of changing it so that you can continue to have that celebratory approach. You can maintain the thanks and the giving, and hopefully you'll be wanting to see those individuals next year this time instead of running away from them because they're going to ask you that same question. So those are 5 things. Make sure you eat breakfast. Make sure that plate is a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but in moderation. Make sure that you get in some physical activity. I would say a minimum of 15 minutes, max of about 30 to 40 as time allows. Limit your soda intake and your alcoholic beverages, and know what that limitation is going to be before you enter into that place or wherever that meal is going to occur. And speak positive into existence. Avoid negativity. And I promise you, you'll walk away with having had a wonderful Thanksgiving day, and you'll be glad to see the individuals next time. And who knows, they may be glad to see you as well. Lastly, I'd like to share with you that the average Thanksgiving meal consists of about 1,800 calories. So let's break that down. If we were to break that down by food items, and I'm going by what is considered your standard food items that are served at Thanksgiving. So let's take a look at the mashed potatoes. So mashed potatoes usually carries with it about 257 calories, and that's based on about a cup of mashed potatoes because of the milk, the sour cream, the butter. Now, am I telling you that you shouldn't eat it? I'm saying again, get a little bit of this and get a little bit of that. So monitor your intake.
You said it's how much? A half a cup? How much is
a cup? Is a serving size that yields 257 calories.
Right.
So you could even.
I don't know who eating a cup.
I do, because if you
like, I'm saying at Thanksgiving, I'm imagining, and I know what you're saying, of course, but I'm imagining, and this is what you're saying is the way that it should be done.
Right.
And I'm remembering when I was looking back at my history, Facebook reminds you of stuff. Sometimes they remind you of stuff you want to forget. And I remember seeing my son's plate, and it was toppled this way. And I said, did he get enough to eat? Now, granted, my son doesn't have an ounce of fat on him anywhere.
He has a rapid metabolism.
Yes, very. But his plate was piled high. So I don't even think that he even knows what a cup of mashed potatoes or anything is, because that's by like that. He's like, okay, that's for the Christian. That's for the baby. So
well, now let me clarify. What I'm telling you is not what I'm recommending or what the research says we should be consuming.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the average Thanksgiving dinner, about a cup, just as it is a cup of rice. So that's about 257 calories. Turkey, which is one of the most lean proteins that you can have, but by the time we fix it, it has all of this and a that and a little bit of the other. 8 ounces of turkey is about 480 calories.
Wow.
8 ounces of turkey is about 480 calories. If we look at the stuffing, and that's based on about a cup there or about, that's 350 calories. Now, here again, at Thanksgiving, some of us have our foods that we are set forth at making sure that we consume a lot of, because this is the only time that we consume this during the year. And stuffing is one of those things that most people like. And with stuffing, they like turkey. With turkey, they like gravy. With gravy, they like the cranberry sauce. So that brings me now to the cranberry sauce, which is 257 calories, about, I would say, between a half of a cup. And sometimes if these things are items that you like, you don't know what hit you, so you don't know if you're eating a cup or not. So I'm just giving you an idea.
Right. You don't know if you're eating a cup or a can.
Right. And by the end of the day, if you're having 2 and 3 servings of that meal, you may have actually reached everything that I've mentioned here in that particular setting. And then last, for us as African Americans, it's not necessarily an item that we serve on a regular basis, but this was just what the research said. 1 slice, and I think it's 1/16 of a slice of a pie, is about 257. That's pumpkin pie. For us, it would be sweet potato. Now, sweet potato has a little more stuff going on than it does with pumpkin. So you can imagine you're looking at about 300 plus, I would say. And by the time that we finish with what we've added to that sweet potato pie, you may be looking at just a little bit more. And then lastly, that 6 ounces of wine, which is about 120. So that's that 1,800 calories. As you can see, it's not very difficult for us to do the math, and it's not very difficult for us to accumulate at least 3,600 calories in that time frame based on what we just mentioned. And those are just staple foods, if you will. I didn't mention rice. I didn't mention potato salad. I didn't mention homemade biscuits. I didn't mention greens. I didn't mention ham. I mean, there are a lot of things that I just didn't mention. So if you can imagine and wrap your head around it, it would be very easy for one to consume 2,000 calories in a setting. So if you can't get my point now, you ought to be able to do the math in your head and see how it is that it would be easier to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that way you're getting the pleasures of your palate, you're doing it in smaller portions, and you're not left with the 1,800 to the 2,000 to the 3,000 calories walking out.
And sick to your stomach the next day.
Exactly. So any questions or concerns about my tips, and that's just to mention a few, that you may have for the dietitian?
Well, I do. So if you're just tuning in, wow, if you have missed what Iris just said, then you can catch it on the replay. But this is LaQuita Parks with So What's Your Story? PaProViPublishing. PaProV means pain, progress, victory. Without pain, there's no progress. Without progress, there can be no victory. And we are talking about So What's Your Story? Conversations at the table with registered licensed dietitian Iris McDuffie. And wow, so we're into the holidays, and you know the holidays started in Halloween, and it goes all the way through New Year. As you start with the candy, and then you have the rest, and you have the rest, and you have the rest. And wow, this is absolutely amazing. There is a question that says, talk about the importance of alkaline water.
Alkaline water, you want to be careful with that, because alkaline water means that you're going to lower that pH. So I would say before you consider any of those things, I would recommend that you have that conversation with your physician and probably your pharmacist to make sure that that alkaline water that you're considering does not have any contraindications in the absorption or the potential effects of the medications that you may be taking. Prescription meds, that is.
Okay, all right.
And one other thing too, I'm glad someone brought that up. This is not the time, Thanksgiving is not the time for us to say, I'm not taking that pill today because I want to make sure I do this and that. You want to make sure that you are very careful, and definitely you want to make sure that you don't miss the medication, because it's all of this food will be nutritious, delicious on the lips, and definitely on the hips. But if you're not taking that medication, it could cause a setback in the future. And it's really not that serious, I don't think, but it could cause some very serious problems that could cause a domino effect and lead to some very serious problems in the future. So this is not the opportunity for you to not take a medication so that you can gouge or consume as much as you like. Again, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and take that medication as prescribed. Consistency, moderation, and creating a continuous plan is the key when you are looking at disease states or even maintaining your health. Everything is about consistency.
Well,
I see a question in the chat.
We have another question. It says, what about B12, D3, vitamin C, vitamins?
Okay, those are all B12, I think, is absorbed in the gut. And vitamin D, African Americans are definitely deficient in vitamin D, because when it's cold outside, we come on the inside. When it's warm outside, we come on the inside. So we're not able to stay outside long enough to get the absorption. So they recommend that you take oral tablets. So if your vitamin D levels are less than 30 nanograms, I think it is, you're probably in the area of being deficient. And so most of your physicians will put you on a regimen, either a regimen where you take the medication daily or you take it once a week. Those are conversations you would want to have with your physician. And those are tests that you should have when you have your annual evaluations or assessments with your primary care physician. And those are lab markers that I would recommend, if you've never had them, that you get them done, and then make sure that when they're going over that, you ask any and all kinds of questions about any information that has been provided to you by your provider.
And there's another question that said, thank you, Iris, is getting your blood work done to see what is going on in the body?
Absolutely. That goes along with going with that annual doctor's visit or whatever your regimen is. There are some physicians that if you're hypertensive or you have, i.e. chronic kidney disease, they like to see you either every 6 months or every 3 months. And so if that's the case, yeah, the regimen is already in place that they would draw those labs on a regular basis. So I always say before you leave the doctor's office, they're going to request that you make a copay, and you ought to request that they give you an explanation for what those lab values are. And you shouldn't be afraid of asking those questions. You need to know what your high and low ranges are and what it means if it's low, what it means if it's high. How can you meet that plateau? And even if there is a standard reference range, some of us as individuals will actually have a different range that is recommended by the physician just because of your physical makeup and your metabolism. So you need to know that. One thing that comes to mind about that as I speak about that, an example would be your blood sugar levels. Some individuals who may be diabetic, their actual blood sugar for them based on their height and weight and what has been a trend for them could be 120 for some, it could be 150 for another. I mean, it just varies. And some of those numbers I just gave are kind of all over the place, but you just need to know what that baseline is for you designated by your provider.
Wow, this is awesome. Awesome. We have lots of questions. Mr. Brooks wants to know, does eating breakfast help metabolism?
Yes, it does. It jumpstarts your day. It stimulates cognition, but it also, yeah, it starts your metabolism. And just think, if you've not eaten breakfast and you've not had a meal for the last 12 hours, your body's in a starvation mode. Your brain cells are in need of glucose. So how are they going to get that? How are you going to be able to maintain? So you need to make sure that you have a regimen in place to make sure that breakfast is a part of your daily routine. And I would say, please, please, please be consistent about what that routine is. Whatever you do Monday through Friday when you're going to work, or Monday through Friday when you're not going to work, or Monday through Friday or whatever, make sure that that's consistent with your Saturday and Sunday. Consistency is the key, especially if you have trends where those some of those lab values are all over the place, or you're taking prescription medications, because there are a lot of medications that are prescribed that require you take it with a meal. And sometimes the best meal for that to occur would be your breakfast meal. Not always, but can sometimes be. So you want to be consistent with that.
So Iris, I love this. I'm loving this conversation because this is consistent with conversations that you and I have had for years. So just to share a little bit more, and we'll get back to the questions. When I met, one of the things when Iris and I connected, I was seeing a dietitian at the time, and it was just not working for me. And it took Iris to explain to me, because I'm like, what she was saying to me didn't make sense. It didn't match what I had going on in my life. And Iris knows, and I'm putting my business out here in the street, but I am one of those bad eaters. Not that I eat so much of the wrong foods, it's just that I'm bad about eating. And so that came from years ago, I had the lap band surgery, and the lap band surgery, it's made so that it ties off your stomach with the band so that you will feel full with less food. Well, that band didn't work well for me. I got it, I lost a lot of weight, but then the band slipped and it choked off my esophagus, and I ended up having to have emergency surgery to have the band removed. The band's been gone, but my body is still that same way. So I'm a bad eater. So I'm one of those people. I don't eat breakfast every morning. I skip meals. And Iris and I have been having that conversation for a long time. Get you an apple, eat something, drink this. And so Iris has stuck with me through the highs and lows. So Miss Mary, I'm not just starting this bad stuff. I've been Miss Mary will tell me in a minute. She's all about you're not eating this here. You need to take some vitamins. Here's some vitamins. So she gets me going. And I was on a call with Miss Mary not too long ago, and just out of nowhere, she said, "We've been on this call for an hour and I've not seen you take one sip of water." And I said, that's because I hadn't. And so I'm bad about that. So I'm trying. I'm trying. So change your way of thinking. So I love this. And if you're just tuning in, Iris, please put your contact information in the chat so that people can reach out to you, because there are dietitians. There are a lot of dietitians who do some really great things, but you have to find somebody who you can relate to, who is going to help you through those little hiccups of life with wellness, and who's gonna tell you the truth. We call it straight no chaser. Who's gonna tell you the truth and what you need to do. One of the things I like about Iris, I will never look at flaxseed the same way again. I will not. So I know what flaxseed is, and avocados and the natural fat chaser. So I learned all these things through the dietitian. Iris, we did an event called "What Cow Are You Milking From?" Because there's should I drink oat milk? Should I drink almond milk? Should I drink soy milk? Should I drink goat milk? Should I drink cow's milk? So which cow are you milking from? And the fat, to eat fat or not eat fat. And then of course my favorite, the exercise with the apples. So Iris, I'm so glad to be connected to you. So if you're tuning in and you want to connect with Iris, if you don't get her chat, send me a message. You can message me through Facebook. You can email me at PaProViPublishing.com, and I can connect the two. She is awesome. So Miss Mary asked a question: what are your views on various detoxification programs?
Well, detoxification came out a couple of years during the time that I was in Atlanta. We've had some conversations on that too. You have this concoction that you can put together where you do fruits and water and things of that sort. I think detox is good, but it's not anything that you would want to rely on as a means of weight loss. I prescribe to the idea of eating everything in balance and moderation. Consistent meals, for me, that would be 3 times a day. And if you're hungry in between, I would say a snack 2 hours from the time that you had your last meal. Nothing such that you're actually removing or taking the place of the next meal, but something that will just carry you over. Detoxing is good, but I think it needs to be done in moderation, and you really need to understand what you're doing with detoxing. And again, I can't say enough for people who are on medications prescribed by a physician. It's important that you make sure that when you start this regimen of detoxing, that you know exactly what you are using and what effect it's going to have on those prescription medications. There are a lot of medications that they have contraindications with foods that we would want to consume. For example, if you're on cumin, green leafy vegetables would be foods that you would want to moderately consume, because cumin is a blood thinner, and green leafy vegetables contain vitamin K, and vitamin K can put you at risk for bleeding to death if you are consuming that while you're taking the medication. Well, some of those items that you would put in a detox solution or concoction may also contain vitamin K. So if you don't know that, in an effort to detox and to remove whatever, you may be also putting yourself at risk for contraindications to affect the potency or the potential effects of the medication. So those are conversations I recommend strongly, if you're on a prescription medication, that you have those conversations with your physician, because sometimes the life that you're wanting to save may be the very life of your own, by having that conversation and making sure that you're within guidelines. And the other thing too is never ever follow what Mary down the street says works for her. Right. Because whatever works for Mary could really work for Mary, and maybe she has a conversation with his or her physician, but it's not to be determined that you can do the same thing, because while we're all alike, we are chemically different as well. And if we're on medications, then that chemical makeup is going to be distinctly different for us too. So what may work for me may not work for you. So again, it's good to have those conversations to make sure that your physician is aware of that.
I love that. So we're talking about conversations at the table, and all of this is a part of your story. It's a part of your story. It's a part of my story. How I see myself contributes to my story. What I've been through in my life contributes to my story. My children's story is a part of my story. How they were raised, what they observed, what they saw, what they didn't see. Conversations at the table with my grandmother. My grandmother cooking food and teaching us how to cook. That's a part of my story. It's a part of who I am. And I agree. I have Miss Mary and Kevin do Beyond Care and their vitamins, and Miss Mary, and that's what I appreciated about all of the vitamins. People in ours, we've talked about this over the years. Here's this new thing. Somebody said, here's this, here's that, try this, try that. And the one thing, when I started taking the vitamins, Miss Mary said, take them to your doctor. Take them to your doctor. And I did. I took them to my cardiologist and I gave them to him. And he said there was nothing wrong with them. It was okay for me to take those vitamins. And I appreciated that, because you don't get that. A lot of people, they tell you, in the fine print to take it to the doctor or ask your doctor before you consume, but it's not in the big print. So they want you to overlook that because it's about a sale. It's about it's about money. So I appreciated that. And in telling your story, write your story. We want you to write your story. This is all about how to write your story, but you can, we talk about ideas every month. We talk about how do I write my story? So we come here with these topics. So to help you know that, hey, you know what, I do have a story. My story can be a food story. Your story can be in the form of a cookbook. It's your story, write your story. And it all starts with a conversation. Everybody on the book, Iris is working on her story. Kevin Vaughn, he got many stories in him. But Robert is a published author with PaProV. Miss Mary is a published author through PaProV. I'm a published author. We're all published. So we've written our stories, and every single one of our stories are different. Everyone. So just like you said, I like what you said, because what works for Mary down the street doesn't work for LaQuita. Even though Mary might be saying, hey, take this, it worked for me, it might work for her. And the same thing with me. Miss Mary down the street may not be taking medicine for cholesterol and medicine for heart disease and heart failure, or she may not have the connective tissue diseases, so it may work better for her. But I can do the same thing that Mary is doing, and I have different effects because of what's going on with my body and the medicines that I'm taking. So if you're tuning in, man, I'm telling you, if you haven't tuned in yet and you're just strolling by on Facebook, you better connect and get some of this wisdom with Iris McDuffie. Thank you so much. Miss Mary, you have a question? And we have more questions in the chat, but Miss Mary, you have a question?
I just wanted to come in and thank Iris for stating that. See, I take no prescription medication. So,
Great.
So therefore, I don't have those problems, but I didn't know that, the information I just shared. But that's good to know, so that if I'm sharing something that I'm doing with detox, I need to make sure I mention that in the future to someone before I share. Okay, thank you.
Yes. And one other thing too, we kind of touched on this a little bit, is I think it's appropriate to say too, I'm a dietitian, but I represent 3% of the population. It's 3% of the population of African-American dietitians, 20% a minority. And of that 20%, the minority would be males. We are looking at 75 to 80% of the population of dietitians are Caucasian females. So when I walk into a room and I'm about to share with a patient who has chronic kidney disease or heart disease, one thing that I think is very important, and this is what I would like to express in my story, is that culture, being able to relate to the culture, has a lot to do with how a person will open up to you and get to the core of what may or may not be going on. But if you can't relate, it's going to be difficult. I can never begin to tell somebody what it's like to consume pumpkin seed every Thanksgiving, or not pumpkin seed, but pumpkin pie every Thanksgiving, because that's not a part of my culture. As I said earlier, pumpkin is something that I like. and I've tried, but I grew into liking that because it wasn't something that I was
Right.
exposed to. So when someone tells me that they've had pumpkin seeds or pumpkin pie, I can relate to it. I can tell them what it tastes like. But if I've not had that experience, it's going to be difficult for me to relate to that person. And I definitely couldn't tell them what would be a substitution, because if I've never tried it, I've never had it, how can I make a substitution? And in nutrition, what most of my patients are very concerned about is, Miss Dietitian, you're trying to take away those foods that I like to eat, or you're trying to kill me. And no, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just basically saying a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And if you take this out of your diet, here's something that you can replace it with. And if you season with this, this is something you can replace it with. And if you allow yourself to open up and be and have an experience and change your mindset, you'll find that whatever the new thing is that you're substituting, you're still going to get the same pleasures of your palate. You're just changing the way that you're doing things. And that's one of the things that we as African Americans need to kind of wrap our head around. We'll go to a restaurant, we'll go to different cuisines, and we'll try different things, but we won't take it back home and try it to make sure it fits our conditions, our disease states, or even our health and wellness. And that's my whole premise in life, is to make sure that we have an understanding that culture plays a big role. But in order for you to understand what the culture is, you have to have had an experience. The research says that a provider that can relate to his or her patient's culture will definitely allow that patient to be comfortable and to talk at ease and to explore and to be more receptive to whatever that particular intervention, prevention, or regimen that he or she may be offering. If there's a disconnect or a barrier about what it is that I'm saying and what it is I'm trying to explain, or what it is that I'm eating, and you can't relate to it, then I walk out not knowing any more than I came in knowing. And the whole purpose of us going to see our providers is to make sure that we walk away having gained some knowledge about how it is that we can better manage our disease state or our condition, or even better yet, prevent from having that condition or that disease state. So culture is very, very, very important.
Wow, you are awesome. So we have a question. So another question is, anything you can say to us men about health and what we should be doing?
Yes, men, I say, get up off of that stubbornness, listen, make sure that you are routinely getting your checkups. Don't get caught up into how an exam is going to be done because it's going to affect your manhood. The whole idea here is get the exam, make sure that you wrap your head around whatever that technique is. But the whole idea here is to make sure that you're not at risk for whatever that condition is. And I'm speaking specifically about prostate cancer and for colon cancer. Those are two cancers that rest very high, from a high incidence for us as African Americans, and particularly men, because we won't go and get the test because we don't want anybody doing what they're going to do to detect it. It is a anal exam, and that's the only way you can get to it. So if you're going to decide that you don't want to have that anal exam because it's going to help you know more about your prostate and more about your colon, then I suggest that you don't want to live. And prostate cancer is knocking out a whole lot of folks, and colon cancer is knocking out a whole lot of folks, particularly men, because they had all the signs and symptoms, they waited too late, and when it was time for them to, or when they decided they were ready to do it, the disease had metastasized, had taken control, and just become terribly unruly. And so now you have this disease, and your lifespan is shortened because you decided that you wanted to protect your manhood more than protecting your body. So I recommend that we read, ask questions, and if you're still unsure about it, ask your provider, what would be the benefits for me to do it versus not doing it? And also with some of those conditions, particularly colon cancer, diet plays a major role. So we love fried diet into the side foods, but we have to make sure that we find another means of pleasing the pleasures of our palate. And one of the ways of doing that is to reduce our intake of fried food and make sure that we're increasing our intake of fresh fruits and vegetables so that we can get those antioxidants. And it looks like we have 15 minutes, but there's one thing I wanted to say that I think is very important and relevant, and that is the superfoods that are superstars for Thanksgiving. And they are pumpkin. And I know that it's not a cultural thing for us, but I want to challenge you to buy the small pumpkin, The small, not the big one, the small pumpkin, which is the cooking pumpkin. You take it and you cut it in half, you scoop out all of the seeds, you put the seeds to the side. I'll tell you what to do with that in a minute. Put the pumpkin face down on a cookie sheet and let it roast. And you'll know that it's tender because you'll be able to stick a knife through it. Cut that pumpkin just like you would a cantaloupe, but then further cut it into chunks. You talking about delicious with the sprinkle of cinnamon and nutmeg, absolutely wonderful. After you finish that, you can put it on top of a salad. You can eat it as a snack, high in fiber, full of beta carotene, which is a compound that is good for eyesight, full of antioxidants. Take those pumpkin seeds, remove all of that web of stuff that's connected there to hold those seeds into place. Rinse them, take those pumpkin seeds and put a little butter or whatever your oil of choice is. You could use olive oil, you could use a basil flavored olive oil, you could use butter, and I like to do cinnamon and nutmeg, roast them, and you could use those as your salad toppings, or you could also use them as your snack. Very, very, very nutritious, high in fiber, and it beats a candy bar. It really does. Now, is that something that you're going to wrap your head around the first time you try it? No, you got to acquire taste. Second would be winter squash.
I'm sorry.
And,
I'm sorry. Somebody said, can I add some vanilla bean ice cream on a roasted pumpkin?
But you don't add the vanilla bean ice cream, but you can add some vanilla bean paste because I put vanilla extract on it. So that's not, you're not where you need to be, but you are close to where you want to be. So try that. Second would be winter squash. They're full of fiber. Their lifespan in the refrigerator is about 7 days. So once you purchase them, you need to make sure that you have something in mind that you want to do with them. Cranberries, cranberries is going to be hot topics tomorrow. Cranberry salad, cranberry sauce, cranberries with Brussels sprouts, which is absolutely delicious. Cranberries in your sweet potatoes as a souffle of some sort. Excellent source of fiber, full of antioxidants, just simply delicious. Number 3 would be chestnuts, good source of protein, good source of fiber. Chestnuts are going to be floating around in a few days, and I've seen them in the grocery store with that mixed nut pack that comes out for Christmas. Very good, high in fiber. You want to make sure, though, that you store them in a cool place so that they are not at risk for becoming rancid, and rancid is when that the chemical compound starts to decompose and you get that kind of icky taste. Then again, pumpkin seeds, I mentioned that, good source of fiber, healthy fat. Apples. We all know that apple season is from September to that of November, so we're running out of that. Good snack, but you could also use that to put into those muffins. You could use applesauce in place of butter. You could make apple bread, and you can cut up a little bit of rosemary and snip it with that. I mean, just all kinds of things you could do with apple. It's only 95 calories, but it's a good source of fiber. And then turkey, that is a superstar food that is a lean protein. And depending on how it's prepared, is going to determine how lean it's going to be, but it's a lean protein, high quality protein, which is what we need to maintain our amino acids and our muscles and all of those good things. And then lastly, Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are probably, in my opinion, and this is just Iris as a dietitian, I didn't grow up with Brussels sprouts, but it has become a part of my menu here recently. I like to roast them with a little bit of olive oil and then put in a little bit of fruit flavored balsamic vinegar, and then toss in a bit of cranberries. And you're talking about delicious. That could be your meal. You can also put that together as a salad. I mean, the sky's the limit of what you can do. And those are nice, hearty snack items that you can have out on the table, but it also could be another vegetable that would be very beautifully displayed on a Thanksgiving table. So I've talked about 7 superfoods, or 8 superfoods that either are full of fiber, vitamin A, a high protein quality food item that you're going to see tomorrow, and probably for the next 8 weeks until we arrive into the new year. So let not those foods just be seasonal foods, let them be a part of your daily routine. Of course, pumpkins are only available in the fall, but you can actually get the pumpkins and store them, and they last pretty good in the refrigerator. So you can use those. And they sell pumpkin seeds. You can get pumpkin seeds now, garlic flavored, this flavor and that flavor. I would stay away from those because they're probably going to have added salt, but you can create your own pumpkin seed and create that flavor that's satisfying to your palate.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
so Iris, this has been amazing. There are a couple more questions that I want to get to.
Okay.
One of those questions is, what advice, or what would you advise a person who has done the blood work, they've gotten the blood work done, and their numbers are higher than they really like to, and so there's a spike in the cholesterol. What would you advise to help bring that cholesterol level back down?
Well, that brings me to my second thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is, or third or fourth thing, whichever it is knowing your numbers. So your blood sugar level should be 120/80, and it should be there or about with a high blood pressure med, but whatever your physician has designated to you as a standard blood pressure for you, and especially with a medication, is what I would recommend. Your controlled fasting blood sugar should be 100. Your daily physical activity should be about 30 minutes a day. Your 30 minutes, and you want to rev that up to about 60 at max. Your BMI should be 25 or less, but about 25 to 27 is not bad if you are physically active and have an exercise regimen. Cholesterol should be less than 200. 201 is going to be a trigger for an indication that they're going to start monitoring that. If it's 212 and it starts to trend up, they're looking at making sure that those numbers get lower so that you're not at risk for cardiovascular disease, i.e. strokes and heart attacks. So at the 200 mark and I'd say about 205, that's when they start looking at whether or not, and if been that way consistently, looking at whether or not they're going to put you on a classification of medicines known as statins. And statins are just going to assist with lowering those cholesterols. The only thing about statin I would recommend, though, if you're on some of the statin, not all of them, atorvastatin, rovastatin, pravastatin, simvastatin. Some of the statins actually recommend that you not consume grapefruit, because grapefruit will decrease let's say affect the potency of the medication. And if you're going to take a medication, you want it to do exactly what it's supposed to do. So you don't want any barriers or inhibitors. So you want to make sure that you get some idea of what may be your food and drug interactions. When you get that new medication, they'll have a listing of all of those little contraindications in the very small print. But if you're unsure about those things, it's not a bad idea to ask your pharmacist to give you a quick view of what to look for in terms of food items that may not be friendly with those medications. And then you can look for it with a magnifying glass in the printout that they give you. And then next would be your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol. That's your low density lipoprotein. These are the ones that actually contribute to the cardiovascular disease. So it needs to be less than 100. Your cholesterol needs to be less than 200. Your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, the higher that number, the better, because that's your protection for warding off against cardiovascular disease. And the more you exercise, the better that regimen is. You can actually increase those numbers just by simple things as physical activity. And then lastly would be your triglycerides, which would be 150 or less. Triglycerides and your cholesterol make up what we call your total cholesterol packet. So they'll do those ratios. So you want to make sure that your cholesterol is less than 200 and your triglycerides are less than 150. And again, these are all preventions. And the intervention will be to give you a medication that will help bring those trigs, we call them, or triglycerides down. And then the other one would be your statins that will help with cholesterol. And some of them have a twofold effect where they can affect your trigs and your statins. So those are good numbers to have, because we all know that high blood pressure is a silent killer. And unless you're getting lab work done on a regular basis, there's no way of you knowing what your cholesterol is unless you are routinely keeping a tab of what it is that you're consuming. And high cholesterol for us comes from fried foods. Okay, fried foods are fatty foods. So whether it's French fries as your vegetable, fried fish as your vegetable, fried cabbage as your vegetable, fried fish sticks or whatever. You just want to moderately look at consuming those food items. And there are many other ways that you can maintain the pleasures of your palate with those foods. You can actually oven fry chicken, and it's the same. You use less than the amount of oil that you would when you're submerging it into the
air
grease.
fryer.
And the air fryer. And there's so many different devices out there now that will assist you in making good choices. Now, if you're using an air fryer to make French fries and you're still buying those French fries out of the grocery store, I have a problem with that. I want you to buy the fresh potato and do it yourself, because what you're doing is you are getting a fresh vegetable and you're reducing the amount of salt. Because remember, anything that's in a frozen bin or freezer bin or on a shelf, in order for it to look like what we know it should look like by the time that we purchase it, because that expiration date is beyond 2 months up to about 2 years, you want to make sure that you are not consuming added amounts of sodium. And huge amounts of sodium would be anything over 160 milligrams. And I can tell you right now, a can of vegetables about this size is going to have at least 300, if not more. And some of them creep up to about 1,100. So you want to be careful with that. Just making sure that you read the label. USDA has created a new label that has given us a little more visibility. So they both printed a lot of things. They've added a lot of things on there to give you more information about what you're getting from those food items. But having an understanding of that is the key to making sure that you know how to use that food item to make it work for you in terms of your diet.
So you know what, as I'm sitting here thinking, and we have, one of the things that was so beneficial to me was when you were here in Atlanta and we did the grocery store tour for the group, when I set that up for the group. And I'm thinking, Kevin Vaughn, I'm thinking that we need to get together and have you know, do a, even if it's a virtual grocery store tour. We need to do that, because there are people who don't know how to grocery shop for your health. And that was so beneficial that now when I go to the grocery store, and I don't, because you know, I haven't eaten canned food in years. So how to go through, and it's because of you that I haven't eaten canned food.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that I'm able to share that.
Yes, that I do flaxseed, and I know flaxseed and what the benefits of flaxseed and avocados and the healthy fats. So I think it would be beneficial. I know we have a world of people who don't know this, and it's important to connect with a dietitian who can help you be well. That's if we really want to be well. So we have Iris, we'll get these questions to you so that you can answer them. Another question right quick is how does a business or individual hire a dietitian, and how how are the fees, and how long do I need a professional dietitian? And a twofold question is, when can the MLT Media Network book Miss McDuffie and Miss Parks for another interview? We're open for that. We're open for that.
A dietitian is a good person to know, because as quiet as it's kept, many people think that we cook the grits and the oatmeal, but I can assure you that there's more to us than cooking the grits and the oatmeal. I can share with you how to prepare that grits and oatmeal such that it's user-friendly for you and whatever your condition is. A dietitian is what we call a food police. Most of the time when you go to see a physician, he or she is going to tell you that you have a disease state, and they're going to tell you that you need to watch your diet. Well, they don't have the time to tell you and explain to you what that diet is. So then at that point, you really need to connect with the dietitian to find out what that is. And that relationship could be on a PRN basis, on a need to know basis. It could be whatever is going on with you. But I think if you have an opportunity to see a dietitian, once they provide you with that nutrition prescription, then most of them, as I do, one of my goals in life is to provide you with the tools to manage your disease state, because whether you have a dietitian, it's good that you know what it is that you need to do so that you'll be able to do it, because a dietitian in most instances, unless they live with you, are not going to be able to be there with you. So the whole purpose is to guide you into taking ownership of that disease state. So it really depends on what's going on with you, but I promise you, once you get started with a dietitian and you're serious about that relationship and that connection, they're going to put you on a road to making sure that you are successful in managing your disease state. And in my opinion, that's the whole function of having a healthcare provider, is for them to guide you through the process. Once you've been diagnosed, or whether it's a diagnosis or something where you just want to improve upon something, it's providing you with the resources and the tools to do that. The Blue Cross Blue Shield usually has a program where they are interested in making sure that all of their insurers are well individuals. So depending on the state, that you can actually see a dietitian sometimes 4 to 6 times, but you have to make sure that that's a part of your insurance packet or your tier. And the only way that you would know that is to call and see what that tier is. Sometimes they involve a copay, and then other times it's just a part of the program. And I would definitely consider that now, because in this space that we're in right now, with everybody having had COVID, if you don't know, I want to inform you that there were a lot of disease states that were diagnosed as a result of COVID. Persons were walking time bombs that didn't know that they had some of these conditions: hypertension, diabetes, chronic kidney disease. So in this space that we're in, a lot of healthcare providers and some of the insurances have been very lenient in terms of making sure that those individuals are provided for. So this would be a good time to ask those questions and to inquire and see where you fit into the whole scheme of things. Does that answer your question?
It does. So Iris, are you available for coaching? I
am available for coaching and
individuals?
Yes, and I maintain my Georgia license, which was smart of me. Yeah, so yeah, I'm available for coaching.
Okay, okay. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. This has been really, it's been very enlightening, as I knew it would be. And so we have been talking with Iris McDuffie. She is a licensed registered dietitian. We are talking about conversations at the table. Iris, I'm going to tell you, we can't wait to get your book. We can't wait.
I can't wait. Now I'm motivated.
Right. We can't wait to get your book and share that so that we can have your knowledge all the time in one place. It has been awesome. Tell us again, how can somebody get in touch with you?
You can reach me at 706-627-5864, and my email address is McDuffie, McDuffie_Iris, IRIS @yahoo.com. I tell people McDuffie is spelled just as the county in Georgia, which I own, which we know is not true, but that is my connection. So maybe that will be a enlightening point for you to remember: McDuffie, McDuffie, as the county in Georgia near Augusta.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Kevin, you have any closing words? You want to come on screen?
Absolutely. Let me pop in here real quickly because I'm excited about this, man. Bam! Woo! This is powerful, ladies and gentlemen. This is so powerful. I love it. Sister Bill, God bless you. Sister McDuffie, God bless you. Sister Parker, this is powerful. I was just sitting back here just excited about the 2022 because we already have a show called My Health, Your Health. All we got to do is add Miss McDuffie in there and Sister Parks and Sister Bill, and we be rolling. So we already got the show because we're bringing powerful people like yourself to talk about this area. I'm excited about that walkthrough. What we're going to do is get with the food chains or whoever we got to get to it, get permission, and we'll go in there with the cameras and do it just like we shopping.
Let me know when. I'm ready.
Yeah, we're going to set all that up. I'll let Sister Parks and Sister Bill figure all that out. But I'm going to bring my bags and we're going to shop. We're going to bring some money. We're going to shop with cash and keep it moving, you know? So yeah, I'm looking forward to that because that's going to be a powerful program. We'll stream it live and just have some fun with that. But we want to make sure that that organization, you know, whether it's Publix, Kroger, or whoever, what's it, Idel, or whoever the new ones are coming to town, we want to get in every grocery store and do that walkthrough so we can promote the good stuff that's in the stores. So I'm excited about that. That's great. So yeah, I look forward to doing that. Let's start planning that now as soon as possible, and then we'll kick that off in 2022. No doubt about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So you Hey, you are tuned in. This has been an amazing show. Conversations at the table with Miss Iris McDuffie, Miss Beal, Mother Beal, Mary Beal. Do you want to have some closing remarks you want to make with Miss McDuffie?
Yes, I'd like first of all thank her for being so open and available. It is just wonderful. You know, she answers the questions. It's just, oh, I got many more questions. I consider
Bring them
myself
on.
I consider myself a health and wellness advocate. So I was just so happy to hear your responses. And I have a question there for you. I would like to have you come to one of our family reunion and talk to my family.
Let me know when. Just let me know when.
We trying to schedule one because my family needs to hear from you. They're tired of hearing from me, but they need to hear from the profession.
Right. Okay, I'm open. Just let me know when.
Okay, well, I'll get back with you on that because it's been wonderful. Very
Thank
wonderful.
you, and I've enjoyed it. This is my passion, and I am so grateful to my friend LaQuita.
I could see that, and thanks, LaQuita, for inviting me because this is down my alley.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I love you both. I love you
too.
I tell you. So, what's your story? What's your story? We all have a story. 100% of everybody living and dead has a story. So what's your story? I'm LaQuita Parks, and I can help you take your story from a thought to a realization. Wherever you are in your story writing journey. If you have a story, and I know you do, and you don't know how to get started, I can help you. If you've already started and you're stuck, I can help you get unstuck. If you have finished your story and you're just ready to publish it, I can help you do that too. And guess what, guys? So start now through the end of the month, we're offering a special discount. If you sign up before the 30th of November, we are offering you a 25% discount on your publishing package. So you want to get in on it. You want to reach out to me before November 30th. Now you don't have to publish before November 30th. You can secure the package, and you have to secure it with a deposit or a down payment, and then you can publish your packet. You can publish your book or your story next year. But you have to take advantage of that. You have to take advantage of it before November 30th. Ours is like, I'm in. Or November 30th, and we can help you take your story from a thought to a realization. Okay. Thank you so much. Join us next month where we are meeting again to talk about what's your story. We're going to close out the year. We're going to close it out with a bang. And, maybe Miss Mary and Miss McDuffie will be available to come back and close us out this year. This has been an amazing year. So I want to wish you guys, on behalf of PaProViPublishing and the publishing team, Happy Thanksgiving. Miss Iris McDuffie said it's an opportunity to give thanks and forgive. Thanksgiving, to be forgive too. But Thanksgiving, we have a lot to be thankful for. Some of us didn't make it. As always, it has been a plump, pleasing pleasure, better than a triple-decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And until next time, thank you for letting PaProV help you take your story from a thought to a realization.
All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, all across the globe, we've been talking to LaQuita Parks, ladies and gentlemen, CEO and founder of PaProViPublishing. And we're talking about conversations at the table with this Miss Iris McDuffie. Powerful word today, Miss McDuffie. Thank you so much for being with us today. Amen. Miss Mary Beal, your wisdom as well is also needed all across the globe as well. So we thank you so much for joining us. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to pay attention to this video, this broadcast, and share it out. I want you guys to share it out. I tell you, LaQuita, we just got somebody from New York that says, hey, post this on my site. I said, yes, ma'am, that's done. So we got people all across the country and all across the globe that will see this. I want you guys to take the link and post this on your network so you guys can get back with Miss Parks on everybody that's here. She knows how to get in touch with all of us right now. So we're excited about that. And we thank you so much for joining us. Hey, as LaQuita said earlier, remember to always out love, out forgive, and out serve each other. And we'll see you next time on the network, ladies and gentlemen. PaProViPublishing, conversation at the table. So what's your story? Get your story out, ladies and gentlemen. Don't hesitate. Get it done. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.